Coast. It's like 11:10 right now or so. So good morning to the West Coast. Good afternoon to everybody else. Thank you for joining in on the live stream. Uh, Before I get started on the live stream, I would actually like to promote the live stream that I'm going to be doing tomorrow, which is going to be a members only live stream. So if you really enjoy this particular live stream today, consider joining the channel, becoming a member of the channel, and join in on the live stream that we are going to do tomorrow for the members only. It's only $1 a month to be part of the channel. You get to be closer to me as far as being able to interact within the comments, and I will be replying more to those comment section when it comes to the members only channel. But then also you will be able to interact with the other parts of the community, or the other members of the community, the members only part of it, to get other, gee whiz, I'm having a hard time speaking, to get the other information that we are talking about. But today we are going to be talking about Triffin's dilemma, which I think is a really important kind of theory or understanding of the economy to internalize, because we were talking about the global shift in manufacturing that has taken place out there. And a lot of times we think about what happened here in the United States as the shift in manufacturing went from, like, our domestic manufacturers to places like China. And a lot of times we end up putting like the political mind to it, saying that it was, this particular administration or this particular mindset within politics that has created this condition. And very rarely do we ever look at it as being just a straight up economic force that is occurring there, where cheaper labor, land cost, manufacturing cost altogether has then taken the manufacturing, the good manufacturing jobs away from our local economies and then off into foreign lands. But we also have to take into consideration that it's going to be very difficult to fix this problem. And the main reason is because of the shift that had happened from the gold standard to a fiat currency. And being the fiat, or the issuer of the fiat currency that is used as the world reserve currency, puts us in a very difficult position to try and bring that manufacturing back here to the United States. Mainly the problem that we are going to have from this is that it is cheaper to manufacture in a foreign nation. And the demand for dollars then has us in a position in which that makes it difficult for us to then provide the world with those dollars. See, this is where Triffin's dilemma comes up. How do you have the world reserve currency and then provide the world with that currency? Ultimately, you have to import more stuff than you export. When you import stuff, you export dollars. And this is really how the dollar is able to be used as the world reserve currency, because the United States is willing to do as much deficit trade as we are doing. All right. So again, we kind of have to take it back to like what happened, like why did this occur? I have a link down in the description of this video that talks, or that has like a link to an IMF blog or something like that. And not that I'm a big fan of the IMF or anything, but really this short little section of this IMF blog, or historical document, I don't even know how to call it. I don't even know what it be referred to as. But it does a great job of describing what was taking place towards the end of the gold standard, right? I mean, gold was the world reserve currency. Everybody knew that gold was the ultimate final payment for anything out there. But gold became very difficult to use, especially when the United States started ramping up production, selling all this stuff to the world, and the world was sending its gold to the United States. The gold ended up being in a concentration here in the United States, and it was going to get redistributed back out to the rest of the world if we didn't do something about that. And that's really where the dollar was stepping up, saying, hey, we're going to be able to provide you with the liquidity that you are looking for and are able to do those transactions, right? However, because the United States had been freely spending, right, because we get to enjoy all this money printing, and just go and buy commodities and products of all over the world and really don't even have to work for it, right? Because we were enjoying that, we spread the dollar too much, right? And when the other nations started figuring that out, that there was too many dollars and not enough gold, and they were going to cash those dollars in for gold, we were going to go bankrupt at that point. So this is where the severing of the gold standard really took place. Now, everybody was like kind of panicking at the time, saying, okay, well, the dollar's worthless and nobody's going to want to use it. And that kind of started to happen there in like towards the late 70s. But then, the inflation scenarios and everything caused the Federal Reserve to run interest rates up to the incredibly high level. It had like the 10-year treasury up at like 15 something percent. And this high interest rate then started bringing confidence back to the dollar again. The dollar was, accepted as the world reserve currency and started being used more and more to the point that now it is pretty much the only player in the game, right? And now this is part of Triffin's dilemma. It's just like, how is it that like a lot of times you will hear from like the Brics nations or something like that, or people talk about the Brics nations setting up their own currency. It is very difficult to introduce a new currency into the system. And these people could use it just all on their own, that's fine. But then we find that it doesn't work out too well for them when they are stuck within that sovereign currency. For example, India and Russia, right? We've used this example many times, where Russia was selling oil to India in rupees, and then Russia acquired all these rupees and had no use for them. Nobody else wanted rupees except for India. So if India didn't have the products that Russia wanted, Russia was stuck with these rupees, right? India is saying, well, what do you want? Maybe we can invest back here into India. Well, that works out pretty well for India, doesn't it? So this is a very limited currency system when you are stuck just to those sovereign nations. If you use the dollar, if you use gold, if you use even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, at least you have something that can be recognized and used through many parties. But not everybody wants rupees. Everybody wants gold. Everybody wants the US dollar, So this is one of the reasons why the Brics nations would have a very difficult time setting up a new world reserve currency that is going to compete with the dollar. Not to mention Gresham's law, where you have bad money that chases out good. So introducing a good currency, whether it's a gold-backed currency or something, into a system that is already existing that has a bad currency like fiat currency, then it's going to be very difficult because people would just hoard the good currency. The gold-backed currency would just get hoarded away, and people would just use the fiat currency instead. Right? So this is another reason why introducing like a gold-backed brick currency just doesn't really make sense. It isn't really going to happen in that fashion unless we have a total collapse of the current system, the current dollar system. And if that was to take place, then yeah, maybe you could introduce another currency into it. So again, the United States is going to have a very difficult time trying to ramp up its manufacturing when we are trying to provide the world with the dollars at the same time, enjoying the purchases of their commodities and all that other stuff freely because we really don't have to work for it. Right? Okay, 7 minutes into this, I think that was pretty good. We're going to do this for maybe a half an hour or so. That's about what I have for my lunch, and maybe we can break this down a little bit further. Just to give it a shout out again for those who have just joined in. Wednesday, tomorrow evening, we are going to do another members only live stream. So consider becoming a member of the channel. It's $1 a month. It really isn't that much money to be part of a smaller, tighter group of community within the Uneducated Economist channel here to discuss some of this stuff further. A lot of times when people are joining in on live streams like this, I'm not going to always see their comments within the stream, within the chat section. But when we do the members only, I will read every single one of the comments. We will go through every one of them and talk about it and break down the questions and everything that we have in it. So yes, please consider joining the channel. All right, Happy New Year, Simon and all. Why not buy gold from India with the surplus rupees? I mean, you could, but if I assure you that if India found out that Russia was going to be hoarding up on all that gold, right, with the rupees, then the price of gold in India in price of rupees would begin to skyrocket. All right, and it would not become advantageous for Russia at that point, as the price of gold would be far more, would be selling for far more than it should. Right? I mean, I guess if you sneakily did it, like, you just kept filtering it through and didn't tell anybody, and then one day it was like, oh, hey, but that's not going to be very likely, as that's a lot of money. And if you start moving it into a small market, like the gold market within India, even though it is quite huge, it would get noticed, and the prices would not stay stagnant. Okay, is there any reason why you don't invest in the stock market? I do invest in the stock market, and actually I would talk a lot more about it, except that I'm not an investment channel here. I'm an economics channel, so you have to kind of figure out what it is that you need to invest in. However, again, in the members only live streams, I do talk more about what it is that I am investing in. And I did in the last, live stream that we did, I talked about some of the stock portfolio that I carry. Now, just to give you an idea, I buy Coinbase, I buy the total stock market ETF, the Vanguard total stock market ETF. I buy the Vanguard Russell 1000 ETF. I buy Altria, which is Marlboro cigarettes, Anheuser-Busch, the ticker symbol is MO. And then I just recently got into ExxonMobil. So those are the stock portfolios that I've moved into. I dollar cost average. I never try to time the market because I'm a terrible market timer. So if you're interested in what I'm doing as far as stock market investment, that's it. Like, that's what I've done. I haven't tried to be fancy or make a bunch of money at it or anything like that because I've never seemed to do well in like day trading. I tried day trading like cryptocurrencies and stuff, and I found that I'm terrible at it. So anyway, that's that. Moving on here. Russia should have demanded Russian rubles for its oil that effectively functions like a tax. Russia can then go out and grab resources with Russian rubles. Who wants Russian rubles? Right? And why? I mean, you could like tell India, hey, we will sell you oil only in rubles, right? And then India could probably try and play that game a little bit. But then again, at the same time that you're trying to acquire the rubles, you would cause the price of the ruble on the market to go up. Therefore, it would not be advantageous for India to buy all that ruble first before buying the oil because it wouldn't be as good of a deal, right? I mean, I guess that's kind of like the idea behind it. If you create any kind of demand for any part of the market, then you would cause the prices to artificially move up, right? Now, the demand for oil is there, right? But the demand for rubles is not. So if you make the artificial demand for rubles by making it in oil, then you have an artificial demand going in rubles that can't be sustained. Does that kind of make sense? I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad deal. I'm just saying that it probably wouldn't work out too well. Like, it doesn't work out too well for Russia no matter what. You have to have something that is going to be neutral for everybody. And that's where the dollar really served its purpose, is that it provided the liquidity. They could do all the transactions they wanted, and everybody was willing to accept it. And the only reason why they were willing to accept it back in the day is because they thought that they could trade it for gold, right? And then once that was severed, it kind of broke the confidence. And then as time went on, I guess they just had no other choice. They wanted to do transactions, and it became the leader, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's because it was already serving the purpose. All right. Yeah, please stay to macro. You are doing a fantastic job, Simon. Well, thank you very much, eh? Thanks for hitting the like, everyone. Yes, please do. Please hit the like button, especially, when it comes to these live streams, because the YouTube algorithm will recognize how many people are actually engaging with the video and then go and grab the video and start spreading it around for more people to join in on. So I appreciate it. I mean, I rarely ever ask for somebody to like one of my regular videos that I upload, because I figure if you really do enjoy the video, you'll hit that like button. It lets me know if I'm doing a good job. But when it comes to these live streams, yeah, hit the like button as soon as you get in. Welcome, Dex. Finally became a member the other day. Well, thank you, Dex, for being here, man. Okay, what is the end result of Cantillon economic theory in regards to the U.S.? What do we see happening? Well, it's hard to understand that, because really Cantillon didn't have the ability to foresee like fiat currencies in the way that we are using them, and he certainly didn't have the ability to see digital currencies. But you got to think about it, like, what is happening within the manufacturing state? Because that's really what Cantillon was talking about, is that when you produce a bunch of stuff and you start selling it to the world starts sending you their money, right? If they're sending you their money, you are depriving the world of that money because now you have it. Right? This is kind of like the idea of like why the gold standard really ends up failing people, because if you are a very industrious nation, you will acquire all the gold, depriving the rest of the world of the ability to send you more gold for your stuff, right? So you end up sitting in a position in which that the bust begins to happen, and you have to redistribute that gold back out there to the rest of the world. That was the position that the United States was in back in the 70s. I mean, look at the link I leave down in the description to the IMF or a blog or article, whatever it is. And they talked about that very thing, right? And so if you are in that position, right, then ultimately you are going to end up in poverty and misery. I mean, how does Cantillon describe it? I mean, what did he say? It was on like page 50 or something. Let me look here real quick and see if I can do this without wasting too much time. Okay. If the annual and continuous balance has caused a considerable increase in money in the state, it will not fail to increase consumption, raise the price of everything, and even diminish the number of inhabitants, unless additional products are drawn from abroad proportionate to the increase in consumption. Moreover, in the states that have acquired considerable abundance of money, it is natural to import many goods from neighboring countries where the money is rare and consequently everything is cheap. However, as money must be exchanged for these products, the balance of trade will become smaller. The cheapness of the land and labor in foreign countries where money is rare will naturally cause the building of factories and businesses similar to those of the state, but which will not at first be perfect or as highly valued. Right? But then if we continue this on, right, this will gradually impoverish the state and make it in a way dependent on the foreigners to whom it is obligated to send money every year. This is where the United States is today, right? It is that it is extracted from the mines, but we don't extract it from mines anymore. We extract it from the debt, right? We issue debt for it. This great circulation of money was widespread in the beginning, like it is today, right? Would cease if we stopped issuing out the debt or people stopped issuing out debt, right? It's basically saying that the mines run dry. The great circulation of money was widespread in the beginning, ceases, poverty and misery follow, and the exploitation of the mines appears to only to be advantageous to those employed in them and the foreigners who profit thereby. So if you think about it, like not mines, because, Cantillon is talking about silver mines as the new money coming in, but you actually think about the debt issuance. If we didn't have that debt issuance ramping up into gear back in the 70s when they severed us off the gold standard, then we would never be able to have the new money coming in to be able to continually buy the foreign production that's out there. All right? So at the end of this, according to Cantillon's essay here, in my opinion, we should have ended this back in the 70s when the gold standard was coming to an end. Right? But the trickery that has taken place, and you can't stop these economic forces, right? So the more if they had ended the gold standard, we all would have fallen into poverty and we would have had to suffer through some major crap for a while, right? Hopefully the industriousness of the people here would have been able to ramp up production again and get us start to moving. However, because that painful experience would have had to happen, right? Everybody would have had to lower their standard of living, had to do a hell of a lot more work to acquire the things that they needed, and they would have to use less stuff, right? I mean, it would just be, everything would be bad. But at that point, we could have probably at least done something with our industrious people in trying to keep the manufacturing base here within the United States. But instead, we chose to maintain our standard of living, sever ourselves from the gold standard, start issuing out a lot of debt, and keep that foreign production rolling in, and allowing the world to continue to use our dollar for the world reserve currency, and basically taking advantage of that so we could freely spend our printed money on commodities and services coming from the world. Wow, I'm really kind of talking fast here, aren't I? All right, 18 minutes into it. We got 12 more minutes, guys. All night, I returned my hammer. You guys like that analogy that I did? I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm like, yeah, you got all kinds of reasonings that you can put to why this hammer. Okay, I guess I should probably let the 178 people know what I'm talking about. So I did an analogy this morning in the video that I had posted, talking about how economic forces are not able to be necessarily controlled. And if you compare economic forces to natural forces, that of gravity. So if you can imagine two guys working on a job site, one of them climbs up onto the third story to go do some work up there. He carries his tools and material and everything else. And a few moments later, a hammer falls from the third story, hits the guy that's doing the groundwork on the first floor, and it kills them, right? And so now all the rumors and stories and reasons and everything else starts coming out to the reasons why this hammer had hit this guy. People would say well, he did it on purpose for an insurance claim, or there might be a jealous girlfriend in there or something, or it was a complete accident. Nobody knows what's happened. Maybe it was negligence on the part of the construction company, and all these stuff comes out. But ultimately, it was gravity. Right? The natural force of gravity took the hammer from the third story, brought it to the first story, and smashed the guy in the head with it. Now, the reasonings behind it, you could say it was a political thing in which that somebody up there literally threw the hammer at him and tried to hit him on purpose, right? In that fashion. Or, right, we could just look at it for what it is. It's an economic natural force like the force of gravity. Right? And if we step back and look at it in that fashion, then we can now recognize it objectively for what's going on. We, if we were on the ground, know that gravity exists and that the possibility of something hitting us is there. We can then position ourselves so we don't get hit. We can position ourselves in which that we can keep an eye on things in a different fashion. But if we trust, right, we put the trust in there, trust in government, trust in other people, trust in the idea, we can get hit by a naturally occurring thing like gravity. Right? And people would be like, "Oh, nobody saw that coming." I mean, of course you did, right? I mean, it's gravity. It's intuitive since the time we were born. Anyhow, moving on. Isn't that how petroleum dollar works? Yes, it is. Let's see, talking about like the petrodollar and stuff. Absolutely. I mean, the United States pretty much set up the world reserve currency to be, backing all dollar trade. So like if any nation is going to do a trade in oil, they're going to use dollars to do it unless they've been sanctioned like Russia has, And then it doesn't work out too well, right? Bitcoin is the ultimate neutral reserve asset. I mean, it is, but really I don't see any difference in the grand scheme of things between Bitcoin and gold. The problems of having a fixed currency where like a gold standard is that you will always have a concentration of wealth to the most industrious people, denying the rest of the world, the rest of the economy, the ability to do transactions because you have hoarded all the money. That's going to happen whether it's gold or Bitcoin or any other kind of fixed currency. And I'm not trying to say that that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that if that's the ultimate way of doing it, then we make sure that we have the people, especially the kids, because they really don't know any different, to understand that they need to position themselves during the good times to deal with the bad times because the busts are definitely going to happen, right? So, I mean, I don't have a problem with going to like a fixed currency like a gold standard or Bitcoin standard. The problem with it is that I just don't think the rest of the world is, and we would see some massive misery and poverty that would be results of that. Again, I think that's probably has to do a lot with education and making sure that people are aware of how it is that they need to deal with it. But again, it's just like it's not going to happen. So, I mean, at least this way, you don't have like soup kitchens and soup lines and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe that is a bad thing. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it. All right, we got 8 more minutes here, guys, and then I got to call it. Take care. Oh, real currency is backed by much more than that. What is a real currency? Real currency is paper printed by your government that has jurisdiction. It's just a matter of whom has the jurisdiction. All right, Maddie, I'd rather trust in a big army and oil reserves than some mysterious cyber thing. Yeah, that's interesting, yeah. Bitcoin is on physical servers and hard drives where those physical infrared resides in is the jurisdiction. You should be concerned about that. I don't know. Bitcoin imposes discipline on all markets and it demonetizes them as a store of value. Dollars are backed by future taxpayers' receipts. I'm going to put my money into yen just so I feel rich. If you want to understand how things work, you need to learn each individual aspect of the concept you are trying to understand. I am pro MMT. Fast velocity of money is great for cheap luxuries. Yeah, I'm not a fan of MMT, but I just don't see how this system can work or continue to work without it at some point coming into play. Especially if we move into a like central bank digital currencies and negative interest rates. I almost could not possibly see that system working without modern monetary theory in like direct monetary injections through like UBI or something like that to keep the money velocity going. Because once you get down to a negative interest rate, the return on capital investment goes negative. Money velocity becomes pretty much non-existent. So you would almost pretty much have to be in a position in which that you force the people to spend money, and that would be literally like cramming it down their throat through UBI or something like that. Like, it's the only way I could see that operating. So, I mean, if the system is to continue, then yeah, I mean, I think that's an inevitability, is the modern monetary theory in UBI of sorts, or some sort of it. All right. We're addicted to the consumption drug. Yeah, Bitcoin isn't stored on servers; it's stored in the blockchain, which is globally distributed. Yeah. Okay. Spot on, tradesman. Okay. Everybody needs to boycott spending. Don't buy anything for 14 days and see what happens. Interesting. Perfect timing, as I am currently roofing today. Yeah, I don't think anybody's roofing today, and not in my area. It's kind of cold and wet. And it's not too breezy. The wind's died down quite a bit. The wind had picked up there a while ago. Sounds like something a murderer would say. Ew. Are you trying to tell us something? All right. Sure, government is a strict subset of nature. No, I don't think government is natural. I think anarchy is natural. I think anarchy is a natural thing. I think government is a forced control. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit more, but I think government is less natural than anarchy is. You can literally Google where is my Bitcoin stored, and it will tell you it's stored on the blockchain, not a server that someone is renting out for me. Well, yeah, the only, like, if it's stored anywhere, it's stored on 51% of the miners, right? Because they're the ones who are in control of the blockchain. If you can take over 51% of the miners, then you can change the blockchain around. So it's stored on 51% of them, regardless of who they are. If you can get 51% of them, then you can change the blockchain. That's where it's stored. At least that's the impression that I have from it. So it's not on any one server. It's the group of them. An act of God. Don't try to catch a falling knife. All nighter. What's up, Jared from Dion's channel? Right on. Good to see you all, guys, here. All right. You don't understand the technology. Okay, sounds to he needed a hard hat on. Yeah. And see, well, that's just the thing. What's the hard hat? Is the hard hat like gold? Right? Is that the hard hat? It doesn't, like, it'll ping off you. It still might hurt, but I mean, at least you were somewhat protected from it. Like, to me, to understand that the gravity exists in the first place, to say, like, dang, man, I know you're up there. I know you're being safe. I know you said that, not to worry. I know you said all these things. I know everybody else around is putting all these precautions on. I know. But still, this is gravity we're talking about. I don't think I want to stand right here. I don't want to position myself like this. Right? Even though everybody else says, dude, you're cool, man, don't worry about it. Right? No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm going to go over here, and that's where I'm going to stand. Like, this is the way I feel about the economy. I mean, nobody can, like, I'm standing where I am, and people are like, dude, you're safe. And I'm like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe where I'm standing, and you can't see where I'm standing right now because nobody's standing right here with me. I'm standing here by myself. So somebody else telling me I'm safe is not I'm not going to trust that, right? I have to feel safe with my own understanding of what has taken place here, right? And that's why I don't want to be positioned like this. You should probably trust your own government more than you would trust nature. I do not trust my government. I have this much trust, 0, for my government. None. Like, None. Like, none, I would contend that government is a subset of nature. The same could be said for any human constructed system, since humans are natural. However, we cannot disconnect the two LT. I think the idea of having, like, human nature wants, like, people want to be led. Like, they want to follow a leader who knows what the hell they are doing. Like, if you have somebody up there who is exuding a lot of confidence, they are showing their way, they know exactly what they are doing, they are presenting themselves in a way that is there, it is easy to trust that person, and people want to follow that. They want to say, yes, man, this guy knows what he's doing, he's going to carry us into the right direction. People love good leaders, right? That's the ultimate of it. Our government are terrible leaders. Like, I don't trust these people. You know, I mean, I have very little doubt in my mind that they are working with the idea that the Constitution is at the forefront of their thoughts. Like, I just don't believe that, you know? And so I don't find them to be appropriate leaders for me. Like, somebody else might find that to be appropriate and say, dude, you got to follow somebody, you know, and it's best to have, like, you know, a country like, I don't have to follow that, right? You know, it's like, people saying that, you know, voting or something like that, you got to vote for the lesser of two evils. No, voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for evil. I don't vote for evil. I don't do that way. Like, I conduct myself in a way that I feel that is most appropriate for me. And a lot of times I find that government is intrusive. They're not really there to try and help. They do things that make it more difficult for people who are actually trying. You know? It's like, it's sad to think, like, if you are like trying to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, get out of the gutter, trying to make things happen for yourself, you meet nothing but constant resistance coming from the government. I mean, but if you don't want to try, or if you're incredibly elite, you get, they'll be bending over backwards for you. You know, it's sad. All right, I gotta go. I can't believe I went on a rant instead of like talking economics with you guys. I'm sorry about that, but thank you very much. What is that? Dagoberto Huber for becoming a member of the channel. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you so much for everybody who has joined in on this live stream, who hit that like button. I really appreciate that. We got 196 people up in here right now with 88 likes. We are going to come back tomorrow afternoon, in around 5 o'clock on Wednesday evening. It's going to be a members only live stream, but I'm really looking forward to breaking down some more Triffin's dilemma, talk more about some of the things that we were talking about in the previous video, as far as like Cantillon's essay talking about the increase and decrease of money to the state and what happens to the manufacturing base within those states when that happens. We are seeing these things shift all over the world right now. We are seeing a lot of things happening within the financial system that is going to be making the next 10 years look so much different from the last 10 years. It's incredible. And that's the point of these videos, is to try and break this stuff down to make it a little easier for us to understand, so we can position ourselves so we don't get hit by that damn falling hammer. Anyway, so consider joining the channel, becoming a member, and we'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.